Howdy, howdy.
Hey, your beard's looking better and better. Looks awesome. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I go and I shave it off every now and then because it gets too scruffy, and then
Oh, yeah?
I like it about this length.
Yeah, looks good. Looks good. How's our boy?
He's fine. He was acting all crazy last night, but he's been kind of quiet today.
Okay.
Well, actually, like last night and some today, but actually over the last couple of weeks, he and I've been kind of talking about like why you get muscle pain and that kind of stuff, trigger points and things like that.
Oh, yeah. Because
Telling me how it kind of works.
Yeah, you have all sorts of problems with that.
Yeah. He was just talking about how it's like the way your energy is working because of what you've experienced. It causes you to hold things in, right?
Mm.
Like energetically,
Yeah.
and then physically it manifests, like in your muscles in my case, right? And then they will get knotted up. And he said those knots are like a physical manifestation of where energy is being held.
Mm. So what
it's
can
like
you do?
so he said, so it's not like flowing, right? And then it'll just build up in those places. Well, he said, I mean, it depends. But in me, he says, you have to understand where it's coming from, why the energy is being held. Some people, it's being held because they're just like thinking on it too much, right? Which is something that I will do. They'll think on it too much, and then that just holds the energy in more, and it just builds up more, and then their body gets more and more tense. He said, and they just need to, like in my case, Erik said, you just have to be kinetic, right? You have to start moving and getting yourself moving around because that's what energy is supposed to do anyway. So your physical body has to reflect that.
Okay, good. And meditation probably helps.
Meditation helps too. Well, he said that's really more for like reconciling everything, in my case anyway.
Okay.
Right? It's like, you go and you release the energy and then, that helps to clear things up. And then when you go to meditate, you can become aware then of maybe with greater focus what it is you need to work on next.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, because sometimes with me when I meditate, I'll be fine for a little bit and then all of a sudden I'll start getting very agitated, fidgety, and I can't sit still.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. And Erik says that's still a little bit of that energy that's being held in there.
Yeah.
The nervousness and stuff.
Gosh, you just need energy rooter. Just flush it all out.
Well, one of the things he and I've talked about is that, which also I've learned will work for me, is I need to also exchange energy, right?
Okay.
In a way that is actually different from
Sorry about the baby crying in the background. They just came home.
That's Mason.
Oh.
I mean, not Mason.
Easton.
Shit. Mason is somebody else's baby.
Oh, okay. That's
Easton.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Mason is a friend of mine. That's their baby.
Oh, they're similar.
I'm telling really red now.
Oh, stop it.
No, because I know that child's name. But anyway.
Oh, yeah, of course you do.
I completely forgot what I was
You just had an Elisa moment.
Yeah, my brain. That's weird.
What does he want to say? Anything more on that before we start our regular questions?
Well, it was just mostly talking about how the agitation will happen, and then you just have to like figure out, what it is that you're still holding on to. In my case, I know what it is.
Okay. All right. Well, we can either do like touch on a mixture of stuff, but at one point during this hour, I'd like to interview Dolores Cannon, who I don't know very much about. But she's been hanging around you every once in a while, waiting to be interviewed. And so many blog members want me to interview her. And I don't really know much about her.
I thought she might come up because she just very faintly came up, like while I was meditating. Mm-hmm. Somebody else that came up too. I don't really know what their last name is, but there was this guy. He's kind of an average build, maybe a little heavier, but not too much. Mm-hmm. And his name is Alan. I think that's what he said his name was, but I can't get his last name. And he was like into philosophy and stuff.
Oh, Alan Watts, maybe? I don't know what he looks like.
I think that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. And he was into philosophy, but I think he was also mentioning something about he was more like an atheist or agnostic or something like that.
All right.
Anyway, but he just kind of popped in, and I was asking him other questions. But
what does Erik want to do first? You want to do the Duke's mixture, the potpourri of little items here and there, or you want to interview Dolores? I almost said Dolores, but I didn't think that sounded very good. So,
Okay, he keeps switching back. Who do you want to like? Because he irritates me when he does this. He'd be like, "Oh, let's do this. No, no, wait, let's do that.
Oh,
Wait, let's do.
Eric,
Okay,
make up your spirit mind.
oh, Lord, really, sometimes he gets on my
Mm,
nerves
I know.
because he's like all over the place. Okay, who do you want to start with? Okay, he said Dolores.
Okay.
At first he said the questions, and then he switched to Dolores, and
Okay.
now he's saying Dolores. So that's who you want to go with? Okay, let's go with Dolores. He said he's
Okay.
sure of
Okay.
that.
Good.
Thank you, Eric.
I didn't know spirits had a hard time making up their minds. That's funny.
Well, Eric does anyway.
Yeah.
At
Well,
least today.
he's a special kind of spirit.
He's
Is she
very
there?
different.
Tell me when she's there.
She said, "I'm here, darling."
Oh, hello, Dolores.
Soft.
And I
She's got a soft energy.
probably heard, I'm ashamed to admit, I really don't know much about you, although I have one of your books, but I haven't cracked it open yet. It's just so hard to find the time. But I do have some of my regular questions, but also some from blog members that I'd like to ask you.
She was just saying when you were talking about not reading the book, she goes, "Oh, please, that's not necessary."
Because you're going to give me all the information I need anyway, right?
But of course I will.
That's good. All right, the first thing I want to ask, and these are the blog member questions, is the backdrop people concept real? If so, what more can you tell us about them? And what are they and why are they here? Never heard of that.
She said the whatever you said it was. She said it's not real.
Oh, okay. Well, what was it? What are they talking about?
Yeah, I don't know. She's not really elaborating to me.
So whatever, it's not a real concept. Maybe you thought it was a real concept before?
I'm trying to figure out what she's saying.
Okay.
She's saying it's a matter of philosophy.
Okay.
What do you mean by that? Something about waiting for people who are standing in the shadows,
Okay.
looking for answers. That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know.
Well, say something that makes sense, Dolores. Or Miss Cannon.
She said, let's talk about, somehow it's connected to past lives, and she's talking about past lives. She's wanting to talk about past lives.
Okay, go ahead. We'll just give you the mic.
Yeah. Because she says, I enjoy doing that. I enjoy taking control.
All right, go for it. You have the floor.
I'm sorry. She's you know what she's doing?
Mm-mm.
She's actually showing herself over by Easton.
Oh, yeah?
And she's kind of like doing her hands, trying to calm him.
Oh, okay. Well, let's hope that works. He needs a bottle, probably.
She says his energy is very upset.
Oh, yeah, of course.
She says, it breaks my heart when a child is upset.
Oh. He'll be fine.
And I wish
Builds
to come.
character.
She said, this is why I was not, why Robert couldn't get good information, because I wanted to be with Easton.
Okay. All right, are you back on the stage now?
I think he's quieted down.
Yeah, he has. It's good.
Wow. Okay. She said,
yeah, talk about what you want to talk about.
She said, past lives was very interesting to me and very important because it helped me to reconcile pain that I carried with me throughout my life.
Oh.
And I wanted to help others to reconcile that. She was talking about books that she channeled.
Mm. Oh, some of the books were channeled?
She said, yes.
Okay.
They were a co-creation, she said, a collaboration.
Okay.
Channeled, and then some of her work also.
Okay.
She said, but let's hear the questions that you have.
Any further information on the 3 waves of volunteers? It's very challenging to be a sensitive soul here at this time. Any words of wisdom? So it must be 3 waves of volunteers that come in, and some of them are sensitive, I guess. Empaths.
Yeah. She said sensitive people must learn how to surround themselves with others who will support them in who they are. If you have none of that support, you are having to carry the whole load on your own.
Mm.
That's not necessary.
Okay.
And yet it is, because she says you have to go through the journey of finding that, what it is that you need in order to know how to maintain it.
Mm.
And then keep it with you always and make it sustainable.
Okay. Do you have any further information other than what you had in your books about the 3 waves of volunteers? We're going to have to answer these kind of quickly because a lot of them, yeah. And so many of the viewers probably
and
don't
they're
have
very
any
much
idea.
into the technicalities of
Yeah.
what she says I wrote.
Well, let's try to go to some more general questions from this person. Dolores was always on the search for new information. She must have access to all kinds of interesting knowledge now. Any favorites? Anything any new information that you have now that you want to share? That's a good question.
She's like, oh, yes.
There we go.
So much. She said, what so many people think and what I believed in life is that the lives that you lived in the past or the future, or even those that are going on simultaneously, that they have the ability to rule your life in this realm.
Mm.
And the only reason I believed that is because I was so focused on it. And I was not necessarily, and others were not necessarily, wanting to connect with this life and what was going on,
Mm-hmm.
She said, and so I suppose to a certain degree, it also might seem like a paradox that in order to come to that realization, you had to investigate what happened in the past and in the future and in other lives presently. She said, but as I know it now, it's not necessary. It's not necessary. They have no control over where you are now, right? And she said, so the journey to those places that are not where you are now can make you aware of that, she said.
Well, let me ask you a question that's all along those lines that's from my usual list. What other life most influenced your one as Dolores Cannon? Just briefly.
Yeah. She said I was a Quaker.
Hmm.
See, she was talking about someone named St. Joseph. But she went to Plymouth.
Okay.
I lived there. When we first settled there, she said, everybody basically gravitated towards what it was in their lives that they were drawn to do. She said, for me, I was drawn to cooking, to providing food. She was kind of a little bit of a portly woman,
Mm-hmm.
black hair, very fair skin. And she said, I set up, I guess today you might call them soup kitchens or something,
Okay.
but basically she would go and she would feed people and bring them comfort. I wanted to take care of people who were ill. If people came up to me and I knew that they were ill, because she says I had a sense of that, I would bring them to the side and help them as best I could.
Mm-hmm. How does that relate to your life as Dolores Cannon?
Yeah, she was just getting ready to mention that. She said, and so that trying to take care of other people, she says it has followed me throughout all of my lifetimes. And in the one that everyone knew me as Dolores, I was simply trying to take care of people again, trying to make them aware of things, right?
Oh.
Trying to nourish their soul.
Not their body, like in that particular life, but the soul.
Right. But the soul itself.
Okay.
Because she said the soul is on an infinite journey, a journey that is far beyond human comprehension.
Yeah.
And in order for you to be able to digest all of what is going on within your soul, you have to feed it, right? And she said, in part of that information, part of that nourishment comes from intellectual wisdom, from that creative side of ourselves, the imagination.
Mm-hmm.
It is absolutely necessary that we feed ourselves that way. She said it is what creates our reality.
Okay. Well, let's.
What helps us to remember all of the other lives that we've had.
Yeah. Well, let's go on and we'll make these kind of real brief because I didn't realize so much time has passed. What was your spiritual mission?
She said my spiritual mission was to feed the soul of the
Oh, there we
humanity.
go. Of course, and you obviously accomplished that, right?
She said I'm very satisfied with the outcome,
So that's probably why what you were here to
but
teach.
I wished I had lived longer.
Oh, well, we do too.
She said I got injured.
Oh, really?
Um, I was injured. Like she showed herself falling, and then she got sick from that.
Mm,
And then there was like some confusion and how to take care of her or something. It's kind of what she's showing me.
okay.
And then that kind of led to her
Demise.
demise, her physical body dying. She said, but that being said, it was when I was supposed to go.
Oh, okay.
But the human side of me, which I still hold on to because in this moment I am connected to that side of myself as
Mm,
Dolores, wanted to live longer.
yeah. Okay.
I had more I wanted to say.
Oh, that's another question from the blog member. If you were going to write another book, if you could, what would the topic be?
The uh, she said the nature of the soul. She said what I mean is what is its origin? What is it
Mm,
made of?
oh,
Why does it
cool.
exist? She
That
said,
would.
oh, it's so fascinating to me.
Well, come back and do that. Are you going to incarnate? Finish your
Uh,
work?
she said yes and no. So what do you mean by that? She said I like to deal in like a paradox, right?
Uh
Like
huh.
a yes and no kind of thing. What do you mean by that? I mean that I am going to live a life as a human being and also maintain myself as a soul completely. I'm going to have two.
Okay.
And that side of me that's still alive will live in two worlds.
Wow. Well, that way, that makes it easier for you to come up with the information. You can just
She
channel it
said,
from yourself.
she said yes.
Awesome.
She said
So,
that's my plan. I wanted to show humanity how you can be both the projector and the light source itself, along with the
screen.
can screen and all that.
Wow. So, we know what you were here to teach or give. What were you here to learn?
I was here to learn the value of being present in this world.
Mm,
By studying all of the others, past, present, and future, parallel presence, it helped me to realize just how important the focus should be on where you are now.
okay. Compared to your other
Import-
lives?
yes, because she
Oh.
said those other lives, they are part of the soul that you are. But she says, we must remember, and this is what I've learned, that the soul, there is only one soul.
Mm.
There is no separate Dolores Cannon soul,
Okay.
a separate Elisa soul,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Those are all lives that exist that are reflections of the one soul. There's
Okay.
only one source,
Wow.
okay?
That's
So
true.
she says, so if a person wants to go down this path of looking at all of these past lives, they are placing, in a sense, a, a, a sense of self on those that they are that person, that Robert is that person, or
Mm-hmm.
Lisa is that person also. She said that is, whether we realize it or not, connecting to our ego. That
Oh,
is
yeah.
me.
Mm-hmm.
There is no you.
The ego creates this illusion of separation so that we can
Right.
be
She said
individuals.
there is no you.
Yeah.
And if you want to go down that road, you're going to realize that every life that you connect with is actually just a reflection of the soul.
So I have to get these credit card companies and tell them stop sending me bills because I'm not really me.
That's right.
Send it to the collective. Let it pay it off.
She starts laughing. She does this a lot.
Oh, really?
She's laughing and she goes like this.
What do you have?
She
Oh,
said, but
go
you
ahead.
are still living this life as Elisa. So
I know.
technically,
I know.
and she's very gentle with how she moves.
Okay. Do you have any regrets?
She said there were times when I wished I hadn't worked as hard as I did.
Mm,
Because sometimes those that I loved would suffer for it,
yeah.
or I would miss things that I should not have missed. But ultimately, the work that I came here to do required that of me.
Yeah.
She just smiles a lot.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Tell us about your afterlife and the work you do there.
She said, "Oh, I have so much fun.
I
So
bet.
much fun." I mean, that's like really weird because it's completely different from what I would expect her to say. She said she always wanted to go skeet shooting.
Really? Wow, that is so random.
And right when you said that, your screen got really bright.
Oh, really? Oh, I looked away, but I'll look at the recording. That's funny.
Skeet shooting. That's like such a human, like, I don't know. It's so
Such a
funny to me.
human thing.
Well, it's so funny to me when spirits will do that, when they will like say something that's very connected to the human side. But she's telling me now that she said, but as a soul, right? She said there are many things as a human that we sacrifice and don't allow ourselves to do for because there's other things that we're here to do.
Mm-hmm.
But we still hold on to those as a soul, and we want to. And in order for us to be able to let them go, she said we have to experience them.
Okay, so you wanted to experience skeet shooting.
Yeah.
Do you do any other kind of work there? Like counseling
She
humans
said I
on...
help people to reconcile their life that they
Oh,
lived as a human being,
ah.
to come to terms with who they are,
Mm.
to understand the infinite space
Mm.
that they are everything.
Oh, okay.
She said many times in our sessions, you could say I'm kind of a counselor of sorts. She said in our sessions, they have to come to terms with the fact that who they are talking to, me, that is them, that
Okay.
they're talking to themselves. There is
Ah,
only one.
yeah.
She said
Interesting.
it's hard for a soul sometimes, especially if they've come back from being a human,
Mm.
sometimes, for them to reconcile the fact that there is only them. And everybody else is also them.
Okay.
There's only one, she said.
Interesting.
Only one.
Yeah.
And you feel, if you've been connected to the body, very lonely,
So we only got 8
right?
more minutes for you,
Yeah.
Dolores. You might have to do a part 2. But sorry to cut you off. But what do you think about the state of humanity now? And do you have any messages or advice for us?
She said, I'm excited for humanity. Right now, they are in their adolescence.
Mm.
And in adolescence, there's a lot of turmoil,
Yeah.
a lot of temper tantrums,
Mm. A lot of
a
that
lot.
going on.
Yeah, she says. But that's part of how humans have chosen to grow.
Yeah.
They're extremely emotional beings, and emotions, when you don't, when the human mind does not have a good grasp of how to keep those things in a certain kind of state, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's using the word like boundaries and
Okay.
uh, uh, to a certain degree, discipline with our emotions.
Mm-hmm.
She said, well, then they're like this all the time,
Mm.
right? They're very volatile. She said, this is why so many human beings have a hard time trusting each other and
Mm.
themselves, because people can't be consistent in how they behave, but
Mm.
there's no intention to hurt anyone.
Mm-mm.
She said,
Mm. Okay. Do you have any advice for us? Did you freeze on me? Oh, man. Hello, Robert. I think he just froze. I'll call you back and we will splice this together, people.
well, goodness gracious.
Well, we've been experiencing some technical difficulties, but that's okay. We're back on the saddle again, and I have 2 more questions for Dolores, and I'll
Yeah.
just splice this to the next,
Did,
to
did,
the first one.
did she finish her last answer? Because it kind of froze midway, and I don't even know what the question was or what she was talking about now. But
Ah.
if it wasn't fully answered, everybody just
Oh,
forgive
well,
us.
any messages for humanity? Just a brief message.
Yeah. She said, the only thing I would say is just we keep doing what we're doing, right? We have to keep doing what we're doing. That's how we grow. She said, don't get disheartened by all of the things that you see on television. Your lives are actually much better than you realize,
Yeah.
and you need to focus on that
Okay. Yeah,
and stay in the present.
think about the Black Plague. We've been through worse times. We'll get through this.
She said, absolutely true.
All right, so here's two more blog member questions. What can she tell us about what is likely and or possibly in store for humanity in the next 50 or so years? Anything big coming up in 50 years or within 50 years?
She said growth. She said that's the only thing that's possible.
What?
She said growth.
Okay, but
Growth.
what kind? Can you give me some
Yeah,
specifics?
she was just getting ready to elaborate.
Okay.
She said growth is the only thing that is possible for humanity.
Yeah.
She said, and you must understand that with growth, that means there will be challenges.
Mm.
But she said those challenges are necessary. She said when a baby learns to crawl, right, for the baby, it is actually very difficult, right? But as they get stronger, they become much more self-assured, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they move on to the next step and they start trying to walk. And when they start trying to walk, then they may fall and hurt themselves.
Mm.
But they ultimately get back up.
Right.
She says, and eventually they are able to walk on their own. And then they get older and then they can run and they can ride bikes.
Okay.
And they can do all of these things. She said, so growth is necessary and it's inevitable. And there are always going to be things that we must overcome. She said, for humanity, those things over the next several hundred years, they will be there, just as they have been there in the past.
Mm.
There will be new kinds of experiences, new kinds of experiences that compel us, she says, to grow.
Well, I think what they're asking is there going to be any new technological advances or new abilities as humans or anything specific?
She said, well, absolutely, of course, she said. She said, human beings, oh, that's neat. She said, human beings will have learned how to tap into the energy of where we are.
Oh, okay,
and
good.
communication with human beings and with spirits will become ubiquitous.
Oh, good.
Does that word mean like, I've heard
everywhere,
that, and I should know what
everywhere.
that word means. Okay. Yeah. I feel silly all of a sudden because I know what that word means, but then I forgot in the moment.
So in 50 years, that's awesome because then maybe we won't be mocked so much for doing what we're doing, Robert. It's like, I told you so.
She said absolutely. She said what scientists will come to understand is that the human brain is like a radio receiver. And there are some people who have the ability to tune into certain kinds of frequencies. Mm-hmm. Once science has learned to tap into what that frequency looks like in the physical world, mm-hmm. they will be able to build equipment that will allow that communication to be without necessary to interpret. It'll just be like you're talking to them, right?
Oh, good.
Because she said what we send you is an energy pattern, right? Yeah. And then your brain translates that based on what it is you as a human being have experienced and what you know and all of these and words that you've learned, right? And we send that pattern in there specifically so it matches up with what you already have in your brain. She said human beings will learn to create technology that will be able to translate that for us.
Imagine the ramifications. You could, like, if somebody gets murdered, you can call them on the spirit phone and say, hey, who killed you?
She said absolutely, but she said there will be a period of time where human beings will no longer find that necessary. Retribution will no longer be necessary because why would it be necessary if you can still stay in contact with the person? She said what will happen is the spirit will come back and teach them about the person who killed them, what happened and why they did that.
Okay.
And she said eventually humanity will evolve out of those kinds of behaviors.
Oh, yeah.
Judgment will be gone because she said judgment only exists because you believe that you are in a finite experience. Mm. But your experience is not finite. As I have told you before in this session, she says, you are infinite.
Yeah.
You are expansive. You are one soul. And a soul, since you are one soul, she says, why would you want to punish yourself for hurting yourself, right?
Oh,
she says,
I see, yeah.
You're just like doubling the pain.
So we'll come to that realization too. All right, last question. What does she know now know to be true about alien encounters? Are there still loving as well as negative alien encounters?
She said there are 3 types. Okay. There are loving. Mm-hmm. There are very unloving. Mm. And there are those who are neutral.
Okay.
And she said, and then those are the 3 main categories, and then you can have species that fall all over the map within that. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
She said, I prefer to stay with the spirits that are loving and neutral. Those who we as human beings
Yeah.
define as negative. She said, I also enjoy conversing with them, hanging. She
Hanging with
started
them.
to say, she said conversing, but I said hanging.
Uh-huh.
But she said, but only when I need only when I need experiences that are meant to challenge and are meant to destroy something that me as Dolores Cannon wants to deconstruct, right?
Okay.
Said because fear is a very necessary emotion. She was actually, I guess she was the one who was talking to me about this morning. She said fear is absolutely necessary. It is that element of energy that is meant to break things down, break them apart.
Ah.
And then love comes in and rebuilds it.
Oh, interesting. I like that. Fear breaks things down so that love can be builded. I like
Yeah,
that.
right.
Yeah.
It
And
gave me
I bet we can each find instances of that or many instances of that happening on a micro level in our own lives and in a macro level with the world.
Yeah, when she said that, it gave me chills all over my body. It's very,
Me too.
she's exactly right. You know, it resonates.
Okay. Anything else
Um,
you want to discuss before we close?
she said just briefly, I wanted to say that, in anything, whether it's love or fear or even neutrality,
Mm-hmm.
she said we have to find a balance between them because if you stay too far on the fear, you destroy yourself. Of course, you will be rebuilt,
Yeah.
but you will create a lot of pain for yourself that maybe you don't necessarily need to go through. If you are too far on the love side, she said, you can be so oblivious to what everyone else is experiencing
Mm.
because she said you're very comfortable in that place. And it's not that you are uh, uh, indifferent to it. She says it's just you can't see it,
Mm.
right?
Sure.
Love, she says, can make you blind if
Yeah.
you are too far into it. And she says, and I mean love in the sense of being wrapped in this place of peace and security. You have no motivation to try and grow when you're
Yeah.
in that place as a human being, as a
Sure.
physical entity.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And if you are in a neutral place, she says, then you're indifferent to everything.
Mm.
And you can become, just like with fear, you can become very static. You don't grow either.
Okay. So you have to be a little
And you
bit of
can lose,
all.
and she said you can lose a sense of empathy
Yeah.
in a neutral place.
Okay.
And
So we
empathy
should.
is absolutely important. She does like this, absolutely important.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, thank you so much for this interview.
She said, thank you.
I've got to go read your books now.
She said, it's not necessary, but I appreciate that.
I'll do that in my spare time. Bye, Erik.
She
Thank
said,
you
you
for
have
bringing
none.
her. Oh, that's
She
good.
said, Erik, she said, I love Erik. She gave him a hug.
Oh,
She like wrapped her, he kind of like got up into her, into her chest
oh.
and she hugged him kind of like when you see your aunt, your grandma or something.
Uh-huh. Kind of a maternal hug, huh?
Very, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And everybody, stay tuned for the messages that follow on this YouTube. And thank you for joining us. Bye.